Alrighty. Hello, my friends. Once again, it's your boy, Pretty Boy $, aka Prince Boulder, but you probably know me as Josh. It's going to be a bit of a different episode today. Unfortunately, I haven't got my boys with me. No Alex, no Liam, no Isaac. So that's pretty sad, I guess. It's due to this, it's a good way to put this. Could say a mean word, but I'll try and be nice and sensitive, and I'll say this very unfun virus. Very unprecedented and sucky times we currently are in, but hopefully me and the lads can get back together soon and get back in the studio, aka my bungalow, and start recording together soon, and we can talk a bunch of fun topics once again for you. But because I can't have the boys with me today, that also means that there's no tech man. I haven't got Isaac with me, so I have all the equipment at my disposal, but unfortunately I lack two things. I lack a decent laptop because I have a Windows Surface, unfortunately, and I also lack the tech intellectual savviness that I'd need for this. I reckon I might have got those words mixed up there, but I'm going to roll with it anyway. We don't stop. We don't pull punches on this show. It's hard-hitting radio. But yeah, that's sad that I don't have the lads with me, but you know what we do? We smile through the hard times. That's how we deal with this. I'm just going to have a quick sip of my coffee and then I'm going to continue talking. First coffee I've had since this whole thing, actually. I've been very good. I've been practicing my own philosophy as per usual. Waking up early and working out 6 days a week. That's what we should be doing during this time. Well, I shouldn't use the S word. I shouldn't tell anybody what they should be doing. But what I mean by that is we should... it's hard to escape basic terminology. You come up a certain way and your vocabulary is built in such a way. It's hard to unlearn words. It is. It's hard to use different words as well. It just comes to you naturally, but that's the thing we should all think. I just used it again. But what I think is going to enable the best versions of us is to embrace these times, you know. It sucks. That's a given. But the flip side to this whole thing and thinking about this positively is trying to find the positives in it. And I don't know, I've kind of just zoned out from the outside world, and I've kind of looked at this time as, well, it kind of feels like the job that I've always wanted a little bit. Like, I'm kind of getting paid to be an athlete at this point. Like, I'm just trying to embrace what's going to make me the best possible athlete, so when the footy season comes back around, I can be the best teammate for my teammates, for my coaches. That includes a range of things. And I'm probably working out 2.5 hours most days, and I'm probably the fittest I've ever been. Started up a folder of progression and stuff, and pretty proud of myself. And I hope everyone else is really trying to be embracing to how they can be their best. But it's not just the physical side of things, it's the mental, it's the spirituality, meditating at a higher rate than I would before. Usually I'd be able to do 6 days in a row, and then the next day I'd lose it due to the chaotic life, you know. But now I've got all the time in the world to just set up a structure and, yeah, again, just embrace life and just do everything possible. Like the last 4 days, I've really just bunkered down and researched and studied everything I wanted for this podcast, because I didn't have to do anything else. Like, I could have just committed my days to this, and that's the fun thing. We can learn how to do new things. We can just embrace life, and through those actions, we're going to come out of this stronger. Like, the strongest people are going to come through, oh, I'm losing myself here a little bit. I believe that the strongest people will come through with a smile throughout all this. And then when it's over, they're going to be glad because they're not going to look back at this time and have regrets on how they spent their time. And that's not a pot on how people are spending their time. It's unprecedented and it sucks. So certain things like depression and anxiety are going to cause us to act out in, I don't know, sometimes irrational ways or whatever it is. But we are the masters of our own destiny, So that's the way I'm looking at it. Anyway, got a little bit off topic there. But yeah, because I haven't got me lads with me today, it's going to be a bit one-dimensional, the episode today. And I hope that isn't bad. We're not going to talk current affairs. We're not going to talk movies. Because I feel like if I'd done that without the boys, it just wouldn't be right. I'd be taking away the value they bring. And those boys both know those things better than me, and I could never, ever take that away from them. So I won't try to. But what I can do is I can keep being the mental health guy. Today I'm just going to talk about philosophy, really. And the last 4 days, as I said previous, I really took the last few days to just study philosophy. And really the last year I've been doing that, just not to the extent I did the last 4 days. But I decided that I decided that this episode, obviously I'll talk philosophy, but the thing about philosophy is I believe that to live our own best lives, we need our own philosophy. But I'm going to talk about definitely. They're definitely 4 of the most influential philosophers that have had a hand in helping shape the way I view life now, and kind of gave me building blocks to build my own set philosophy, my own moral guide, my own ethics. That's Socrates, Marx, Nietzsche, and Buddha, the main man Buddha. But yeah, I'm looking at the episode today as I might get a little bit sappy, not sad, because I'm not sad, I'm not a sad person anymore. But I'm gonna get really open and honest, and I want to talk not just my own philosophy, but I want to talk about what led me to shaping my own philosophy. I want to talk about my past. I want to talk about influences from other people. Let's just talk life. But it won't be just about me. I love that topic though. It's a good one. But I'm going to really draw upon these 4 guys. I'm going to draw upon the values that I think they've brought. But yeah, I guess I hope today helps someone realize they have the power to take control of their own lives. And with that, they have the power to shape their own philosophy. And if you're listening, I hope, if you're listening and you already embrace your own spirituality, your own life, and you don't really need some 22-year-old with blonde hair telling you or artificial blonde hair telling you how to live your life. I don't know, identity is an ever-growing journey. So let's take that journey together. It's pretty wicked. Anyway, without further ado, let's jump into it. I can't have any fancy editing, or maybe I can send this to Isaac. Maybe he can edit it a little bit for me. Yeah, so I won't have a intro to differentiate from the start of this to jumping into the show like usual. But anyway, I guess we don't need that. I don't know. Talk about my life to start off with. And because some of it, what I'm about to speak, is heavy in tone, I'm going to have another sip of my coffee and then we'll jump back into it. Yeah. Well, I guess talking about my own life, I'll probably start off with 2 years ago, 2018. I think the year that I kind of look at life in 3 separate stages, and that was the middle, probably the shortest time, but it was kind of one of the most instrumental times to shape me into who I am now, because it was during a time where I think I really became, I definitely became at my worst. That came through realization as well, that things in my head weren't that great, because I kind of tried to hide it for a long time through certain unhealthy coping mechanisms, such as heavy drinking, alcohol, fighting, and this time I was still doing a lot of that stuff, but now I was realizing why I was doing that stuff, why I was the way I was, and why I was different to other people, and that's not me discrediting other people's hardships. It's just, I think people go through individual experiences throughout their life, and very rarely can someone truly relate, and that's something that annoys me a little bit. I remember when I went through my troubles for a time there, after I found out I had bipolar. Well, not even after that. When I went through my real suicidal troubles, you'd have people who weren't really similar to you or had went through similar walks of life say, hey man, I've been there, and there's 2 ways to look at that for me. One, I really appreciate it, because people don't have to do that. They don't. They do it out of a worry for your own safety, a worry that you might not have someone there, and that's them trying to extend as much as they can. That's the thing. There's no obligation to helping people. But I think helping someone makes you a better and stronger person, while also potentially helping the other person become strong. But then the flip side of that is, it kind of, for lack of a better term here, kind of annoyed me, because it kind of felt as if my experiences were being taken away from me, and kind of demeaned in a way, because it was really hard, and the thing is, I'm a very aware and conscious person, so when I went through all that stuff, it hit me like a brick wall. And what I realized was that not many people can actually relate. And that's not a bad thing, and that's not even an isolating thing for me. It was kind of where I felt comfort, because it kind of made me realize that, hey, you're different. You're special in this way. This is what separates you from other people. So when people would say, hey, I've been there, without actually thinking about what I've been through, it kind of took away from that for me, kind of took away from a bit of identity that I had, because our hardships are specific to us. Very rarely can someone go through that specific challenge that we have. And for me, it was like bang, 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 like one thing straight after another, but it led up for a long time. The first domino took its time to drop, and then once it did, everything else followed through. But During the hardest time for me, which was start of 2019, I wrote my first suicide note, and then I had my partner leave me the next day. No fault towards them, no harsh feelings there either. They did what was right for them, and they did what was right for me, I feel. Because I think without that hard luck, that kick up your butt, I don't know, but I don't think that I would have became this person today. I don't think I would have became this happy, high self-worth person, very extroverted, happy kind of character. But yeah, that was annoying to me, because you just went through this mindset of I'm going to end my life. And then the next day, the person that kind of made you feel better in that moment and helped you, made you feel loved, was gone the very next day. That's hard, and I think I pride myself on my strength on able to get through that, because I don't think a lot of people could have. But then during that time, I also lost my job. And I lost a lot of friends. And this isn't all a pity party, a self-sympathy thing for me, because the majority of this was brought on by me. But that's what people do when their mind has been affected. They don't think rationally. They don't act rationally. They act a bit erratic, and they take it out on the people around them. It's not hard to think that that's what happens, because that's what happens most of the time. It's just a lot of the time the person can't bring themselves out of it. And for me, it took a while. So that kind of annoyed me, that you'd have people saying, hey man, I've been there. When no, you haven't. You've been through your own troubles, and that's cool. And I think relating works for other people. So this isn't me saying stop relating to people. It just didn't work for me specifically. And that's what this podcast is. It's individual takes. But yeah, that was hard. That was very hard. But 2018, yeah, that was the year where I realized that all this stuff there was something wrong, that maybe I didn't come from the best background. This isn't me potting anyone, but maybe I didn't have the support that was necessary to enable a better me from a young age. And you don't even need that sometimes, because I think everything happens for a reason. The belief in Dharma, Buddhism, everything happens for a reason. As long as you pay attention to the signs the universe is throwing to you, and you allow yourself to grow, and you be awake and aware and conscious, you're going to be the person you should be, that you want to be. And that's who I am now. There's no need to feel sad anymore, And that's not saying I don't ever get sad. Sometimes I get sad. But I realize that I don't have to feel sad. And when I realize that, I kind of pick myself back up and I go do something, whether that's something small like taking my dog for a walk or whatever it is. But yeah, and then 2019 came around, bang smack at the start of it in February, I think, maybe start of March, end of Feb, start of March. That's when everything really hit the fan, and my life kind of went south side. It was already south side, but now it was very apparent to everyone outside. And my thing is I never want to be seen as a sympathy case, so it was hard kind of being that sad, depressed. I don't know. I kind of look at myself back then as a loser, but I think self-deprecation is inevitable when you're looking at a previous version of yourself that you've worked so hard to better yourself from. So that's not me attacking other people or whatever. That's just me kind of burying the old version of me because I didn't like that person very much and I like this one a lot. This guy's pretty cool, I think. But the funny thing was, during that time, this is 2019, I was just not optimistic about where my life was going. And that was because I didn't realize that I was the problem now. Like, I blamed back then I blamed everything on everyone else around me. You know, I blamed it on certain parental figures. I blamed it on friends. You know, I blamed it on my partner to an extent after she left. I blamed it on my siblings. I blamed it on people who wanted to help me. And I didn't realize that the one who was really standing in my way was myself. And that's not to say that there wasn't external problems also. I think that's inescapable. I think that that's the situation for everyone. But once I kind of realized that it was me, that was kind of when I was invigorated with this strength. Early days, I thought once like I had this image of myself, I finally built up self-belief that, oh, everything's better now. You know, it's like, no, everything's not better. Like, everything's pretty crap still. Everyone sees you still in the same light as before because you haven't done anything to prove yourself. And you don't have to prove yourself to anyone. The only person you have to prove yourself is you. But that doesn't take away the image sometimes, you know. That's what sucks. But you know, the key to me living a better life was finding that self-belief. And once I did, everything kind of became a lot easier. When I realized that I was in charge, that nothing determined my destiny, was me. Once I realized that the only thing that is for certain is change. That I could be the one who made my life change. So I went about trying to change my life. You know, there was one woman that really, there was a few people that really inspired me, gave me that influence, you know. And one person that really helped me find that inner belief, that inner strength, was actually a woman that used to babysit me when I was a child. It's funny how the world works like that, isn't it? Like she took money at one point to take care of me. And then, 15 years later, 16 years later, she's taking care of me still. That's funny, isn't it? The start of your life, and then when things are going really bad, it's your babysitter. But this person just, I'd lost a bit of hope in humanity at this point, and I started to believe that maybe life isn't great. Maybe people are not good. And I needed something, you know, because I didn't have that strength in me yet. So I just needed something external to just give me this sense of hope for people again. And it was a woman that picked me up, dusted me off, showed me her philosophy towards living a better life, gave me a place to stay for a while, and once she thought I was ready, saw me off. And that was so instrumental towards helping me live a better life, because that person had no obligation to do so. But yet, they still did. And that made me realize that people are good. People are good. And that was great. There was another who, at the drop of a hat, when I was around, I don't know, certain people, and things were so erratic and unsteady for me, whenever I'd fall back down, because I after I wrote that note, I tried to do it again. I tried to take my own life again, because it's hard when you're in that place, and not in the sense of, oh man, it's so hard to live life. No, it's hard to find something worth living for during that time when you've given up on yourself. But when you felt like you had everyone against you, this other person was just there every time because they wanted to make sure you were okay. And that was another person that made me realize that people were good. And that was probably those two people, those two beautiful women, were the ones that made me realize that life's worth living, people are good. And those two things really filled me up with strength and belief. And from there, I was just, honestly, I think unstoppable. Nothing could shake me. You know, there was still times, a lot, that I was upset on that road, but the most important step I ever took was realizing that I was in charge and that I could shape this journey whatever way I like. And for me, that was getting away from my hometown. That was isolating myself on purpose. Like, that was by design. I deliberately took myself somewhere far away from home because the only way I was ever really going to figure out who I am and what I'm supposed to be and what happiness is and what humans are supposed to do was by isolating myself where I knew no one and I was by myself. And I knew how hard that was going to be. I knew how challenging that was going to be. The thing is, comfortability is never a great thing. I think Nisha said that. You have to challenge what you know. And Socrates said that. You need to challenge everything without blind belief. You need to challenge your values. You need to challenge your own opinions. You need to challenge your beliefs, whether that be religious or social. You need to challenge your inner person. You need to challenge absolutely everything to be better. So that's what I did. I moved to Melbourne, and I know people's situations are always different, but I think you can do whatever you want if you really want to. I don't really think there's an excuse. I don't think there's a monetary excuse. I don't think there's a family excuse. I don't think there's much. I think if you really want to do something, you can do it. Because I moved down to Melbourne with $20 in my pocket. And I just paid a week's rent. I moved in with a cousin who I'd met once at my mum and dad's wedding. 10 years 12 years prior. But there was just this thing in my head saying, pay that week's rent, get down to Melbourne with $20 so you can get some food or whatever, put some money on your Mikey, and everything is going to turn out okay. And it's funny the power that the universe has, because I believe myself completely, absolutely 100%. But I didn't really have anything to prove that belief. It was just in my head. And I remember how insane it was, because I got a job on the Sunday of that week, the very last day of the week, and I got a job. And then I was able to continue to pay rent. And then I went to university. I tried my hand at that, but then I realised that I was kind of taking on a bit more than I could handle at that time. That's not to say I won't go back to university. But for now, this year, I'm taking a whole break from that thing, which is good, because I think the thing I was studying, I have a passion for, but not a passion for career, which is kind of ironic, because if I'm going back, I want to study philosophy. I want to study the art of life. I want to answer all those questions that all the people that inspired me in philosophy haven't completely answered yet. Yeah. Life's fun when you embrace it. But I think the thing that really gave me identity was when I got my second job down here. And then the next day after I got that job, I went and signed up for a gym. Went into that gym, and not one day since have I looked back. I was committed, and I said to myself, if you want to be great, you go and do what the greats do. So I changed my diet, started working out as hard as I possibly could, because I wanted to see results. And not only that, it kind of started out as a way to silence my mind, to null the bad thoughts, to null the sadness, the depression, the anxiety. And that's how I viewed it until I started seeing results. And then it took away the depression, it took away the anxiety, because it's pretty bloody hard to hate yourself looking in the mirror when you got a banging set of abs. I'm talking a six-pack. It's hard. It's hard when you really like the person staring at you in the mirror. And that's not to say base all your worth on your looks. It's not. It's just part of my philosophy. I want to externalize how I feel internally to the extroverted world. And I think that's representative on the way I used to appear before, the way I used to show myself off to the world, and it was lazy. It was without effort. And I think that says everything to how I used to live life. I looked like a bit of a slob, looked like a mess, A lot of the time I wouldn't wake up till midday. So I don't really care about the way I looked. And then that's when I started kicking into gear, when I went to the gym. And that's why I spend a lot of money on clothes now. I spend a lot of money on supplements, and it's all to look better. It's all not just to look better. Like, I want to be the best athlete I can for football, for MMA in the future as well. So there's no excuses. And even now, like during ISO, going for a run, I'll wake up at 8 o'clock and get ready to go for a run, and it's like, God damn, it's so cold sometimes. I'm like, is it really worth it? Like, there's a part of my mind going, just go back to bed. And I'm like, no. Because if you want to be great, you go do what the greats do. Because then there's no excuse as to why you shouldn't have been great. But yeah, I think once you realize that you're in charge, you're the master of your own destiny, you can really do anything, you know? Like, I probably thought that this podcast is out of reach. And that's because I conditioned my mind to thinking that I couldn't really achieve the things that I wanted to do. But I don't know, look at me now. And I'm not saying the journey's over, and I'm not saying I'm some prophet or whatever. I'm just someone living life, wanting to make a difference, and doing that in whatever way I can. I don't know, similar to Marx, I guess. That was a guy that was sick of a materialistic world, and I'm not saying that I'm sick of a materialistic world. To an extent I am, but also I have a closet full of Calvin Klein and Versace and Ralph Lauren, and could keep going, but I'd absolutely exhaust you, and we don't want that. That was a guy that was sick of a world that was exploiting people, sick of a world that wasn't giving the people the credit they deserved. And that's why, I don't know, that's why he inspires me. Because he's a man that stood up to a system that was ready to smack him straight back down, you know? Like a man that challenged beliefs like religion. Like, I don't know, he's recorded as believing religion was a painkiller to the people. It's what they were fed and what they were told to believe without question. You know? Man that was fueled by an empowerment for the workers because he didn't want them to be exploited. He believed that philosophy was going to be the answer to how we interpreted the world and how we could change it. And this is a guy that didn't have to commit his life to wanting better for others, but he did regardless. That's why I look up to him. But I think a very common interest that all these guys that inspired me had was they share something that I have. And it's questioning everything. It's questioning what it is to be a human. It's questioning what suffering really is. It's questioning how to handle loneliness. It's questioning religion. It's questioning beliefs. It's questioning politics. It's questioning society. You know, Nietzsche was great for that. You know, he didn't think that suffering was something we had to subscribe to. He believed to an extent that it was a concept. It was inescapable and inevitable, but it was to an extent it was a heavily social construct, heavily driven social construct. Sorry, and it stood in the way of embracing life. And again, this was a guy that challenged the big cats, I guess. Challenged the materialistic Western world when he didn't have to. Like, he believed that life was this cycle of suffering, but like he refused to be negative. He refused to give in to like an empty, nihilistic approach to life. Because once you've done that, you're the one who's going to suffer as a result. Which is kind of easily interlinkable to Socrates. Like, this was that shaped his life around the art of questioning. You know, this is a guy that he's different to the others, probably the most. And like, that's proven by his like distaste towards writing. Like, he was so firm in his belief of life that he refused to like write down stuff because he believed that was like the entrapment of knowledge. And like, I don't agree with that. I love writing, I love reading, but I can understand it, almost subscribe to it to an extent, because he's right. It is the entrapment of knowledge. what all these philosophers have taught us is that life is ever changing. Like, that's the only thing that's for certain. That's things will change constantly. There's no definition of a permanent you, or a permanent life, or a permanent social construct, or politics, your government, whatever. So what was the point? And this is just his mindset. What was the point in writing when things are going to change always? And again, I don't fully believe that, but that was him. That was a guy that just believed in altruism. There's a guy that embraced that we know nothing without challenge. Like, this is a cat that would walk on the streets and refuse to give in to materialistic ideals. So he was dirty, didn't dress well, smelt, but people loved him on the streets. In particular, like the youth loved him because he was such a diplomatic man that he would engage you, but with challenge, and not in a way to attack you, because he didn't believe in that. He didn't even believe in taking revenge, because doing something wrong to someone else is doing wrong by you, and you suffer as a result more than the person that you're inflicting pain upon. But he would have these conversations with people on the street, and this still, from my understanding, still lives on in certain parts of Greece. He'd have these conversations with people and ask them questions. Not just Greece, actually, because you can watch any video on YouTube and see this. The prove me wrong videos, even vegan ones, like Earthling Ed, for example, he goes out of his way to engage people on the streets or in universities or whatever it is, and ask them why they eat meat. And then he watches them try to explain, and then he challenges what they believe, and then sometimes they realize they're wrong, and whatever it is. But that's what Socrates did. He's the driving force behind that, because he'd ask these people questions, and then once they answered, he'd jump back off. Not in an attacking way. He'd ask them why they believe that. And he'd give comparisons to certain things, such as what is knowledge, and then they'd answer it and give whatever answer they would, and then he'd challenge that definition of what they believe knowledge is. And that's even before I really studied a lot of Socrates' philosophy. That's a reoccurring theme with a lot of these guys. Before I studied them, I was already living very similar values to what they were trying to externalize to the world, and that's why I really attach myself to some of these guys. Because I believe in challenging everything. I believed in challenging what you know without being blind to it, without blindly following what you're told. And I think that's what a lot of people do. I think a lot of people just blindly follow this set ingrained path that they're tricked into thinking that they have to. And I think as a result of that, we're harsh to ourselves, and because we're harsh to ourselves, we're really harsh in the outside world, and that's shown in the way that we treat others. It's shown through our oppression of certain groups, certain people. Like Socrates came from a belief that punishment is only okay when you're trying to heal another's soul. And I think that's pretty amazing, because I believe it. I don't think we should ever aim to hurt another. And if we have to, we absolutely have to, then it should be to try and educate, try and help someone, try to heal. The purpose of punishment is to reform. Like, and if you're aiming to hurt someone else, this, like, Socrates thought that ultimately you are going to be the one that suffers more. And I think that hits pretty hard because there's certain things I've done in life that I can't ever fully heal from because I was the bad guy in certain situations, you know? There's one thing in particular that really bothers me, and it's how I left my previous relationship and took things out there. And I can never get that back, and I don't deserve that forgiveness either. Because, yeah, this might be me now, and there were certain factors that went into the way I acted before, but ultimately, that was me once upon a time. And even though everyone is entitled to change and everyone is entitled to living their truest self, we always have to take responsibility for our own actions. That is not escapable. Suffering the results of your own actions, it's karma, you know? Buddhism, you do something bad, then karma will come back to get you. And we've all done things bad, and we all have to suffer the consequences of karma to an extent, you know? But out of all these influences from philosophy that I've had in my life, the one that really took hold of me and propped me up was the philosophy of Buddhism. You know, the religion of self, the path of enlightenment, that, because I have this heavy, wondrous belief that the universe is an external force, and I can't explain what it is because I don't know. That's the Socrates in me kicking in. I don't know. And that's why he was the wisest man, because he didn't know. But Buddhism is something I've always subscribed to, and I really put it into practice in my own life over the last year, and that's the biggest driving force in what has helped me live a better life. Meditation is Buddhism. And meditation is something I do every day, or try to do every day. And I have, because of isolation, the last 35 days. And Buddhism, to its core, is like the mission to save or to make sense of life. I don't know, it's just some of the questions that Buddhism explores is just so inspiring, you know, like what happens when we die? And that was something that the Buddha did. You know, like he went out of his way to explore the other side of what we know. Because we don't know death. All we know is life. And we don't even really know that to the highest extent. But a Buddha was a man that came from such like a high royalty family. And he had no obligation to go and do what he did. He could have stayed and been a king, you know, but he didn't. Because he wanted to be a king of the people. And he wanted to figure things out and help others think. Help others challenge life. Help others realize self-discovery. And I remember when I was going through the relatively early days of my own self-discovery, there was one thing I read that just hit me like a ton of bricks, and that was that the belief that the only certainty that we have is how we experience the world, and that it's our minds that are going to dictate how we translate those experiences and determine like what kind of experiences we're going to have. And that's such a powerful thing to say, because it is your mindset. And that's why there's champion sportsmen. That's why there's champions of like pushing the world forward through technology. champion politicians to an extent, even though most of them aren't. Because they all have this mindset of, I'm going to change the world and nothing can stop me. And then that's the moment that I realized I have that mindset too, because I have the power to think like that. And that's when you realize that, like, I think one of the most important practices that I practice in my own life was meditation. You know, that was something used the external world. And that was something that was ruining me. That the external world kept moving when I was sad, you know, people kept moving when I was sad. So meditation, and that's not taken down on anyone else, it was just how I felt during that time. But meditation helped me silence the outside world and really bonded me with who I was on the inside. And the Buddha came from a belief that meditation is a practice that we should all use, because it's the only way we're going to combine like a physical form with our universal soul, like embrace spirituality, so we can like achieve this highest reality, and like therefore that's the only way we will realize true liberation. My biggest message, I guess, from this is these are 4 guys that I look up to, that I practice their values still to this day. But there's certain things that I look at with them where I don't agree. And that's what I think a lot of people don't understand. You see people these days who subscribe so heavily to some of the great philosophers that we have today, such as a Jordan Peterson or a Sam Harris, where they blindly follow that without question. And that goes against the main message, in my opinion, of philosophy. Question everything. Question absolutely everything. Question why you like something. Question why their philosophy stands out to you. But the thing is, what works for one person might not work for the other. The biggest takeaway that I'd like people to take is that the only way we can realize our true selves and realize freedom is by building our own philosophy. And that's not to say to not listen to these great philosophers. They're great for reasons, because they challenge the original ways of thinking. Even the guys like I mentioned before, Peterson and Harris, they still challenge the way of thinking. But just because they do so doesn't mean that you completely hold on to that and take it with the utmost seriousness towards your life, because I think that the only way we can really be happy is by making our own philosophy, by exploring new ideas, by exploring what works for us. Don't die an original. Don't die a copy. Die an original. I think John Landis said that. I really stuffed that one up. But I'm a very happy person now, and I contribute that heavily to modern philosophy, Western philosophy, ancient philosophy. But I question it still, because I want my own philosophy. And a lot of people sometimes ask me how I did it and why I'm happy. And my response to that is, what do you mean? What have I done? How am I happy? And yeah, I am happy, but I still got to question that. Because people ask me as if the story's over. The story's not over. It continues. If anything, it's very early days. It's very exciting days, but it's very early. because nothing has finished yet, you know? Who knows what will happen tomorrow? It's unknown. But the biggest thing about how I live my life now is embracing the unknown. I think Nisha said to take risk. Because without taking risk, then we've lost life already. I don't know, this has been a bit of a different podcast today, I guess. It's been weird sitting in this empty room without the boys, but I don't know, I haven't really felt alone, which is weird. Maybe it's because I don't shut up, but it's been fun. Anyway, this is your boy once again, signing off. Appreciate ya. I love ya. Take care.